made it. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So today's guest is Jennifer, and we just spent the last 10 minutes or so one problem solving some glitches. We always have to do that before a show starts.
Glitches on my end.
It's okay. They've been on my end last time. Or
that
time
makes
before
me
last,
feel
I had an echo. So everybody got
That
to hear
makes
me
me feel
twice.
better.
Yes.
That makes me feel better.
So then I'm thinking, okay, so my guest is just going to do all the talking. And I'm just going to be quiet, which is not easy, right? Because of my echo.
I hear you.
Hey, everybody joining in. So real quick, we'd love to know that you're here. We'd love you to participate, ask questions, talk to each other in the chat. But we don't know you're here if you're not chatting, because we can't see you, we can't hear you. So please throw it in the chat. Hello. And already we have some hellos. So hi.
Hi.
So I've been so looking forward to today's call. I love your Facebook, your LinkedIn posts. You and I met on LinkedIn. So for many reasons. So go ahead. I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself, and then I'm going to ask a question.
Okay. So I am Jen. I am a mom of 2 children on the autistic spectrum. My daughter is 14. My son is 11. And they are both the quote unquote high functioning autistic spectrum, which basically is supposed to mean life is easier, but autism is autism, whatever stage your child is at. And I've also, I'm on a physical health journey. I'm trying to lose between 70 and 80 pounds. I have 2 birth defects in my knees and a few other issues. So to prevent myself from needing knee replacements, I'm changing my life. So that is basically me. I live in BC, Canada, and I'm almost 47.
So that is one of the reasons I've connected with you, and love watching your journey and how you set goals, like how many steps you're going to make, and then you hit it, and then you like knock it out of the ballpark. So I'm so impressed.
I did knock it out of the ballpark. That actually surprised me. that one surprised me. It took a holiday, and I have an 11-year-old that walks a lot when he's on holiday and chasing a dog around, and we just kind of went. But basically what happened was last year I was in I was about to drop my dog off at the groomer, and I got rear-ended by a dump truck, small dump truck. But he took out the right side of my van, right back here. If my son had have been, if I hadn't planned on going to the grocery store, my son would have been in the spot where he drove into. And that took a long time to get the mental side of that passed. But it rocked me sideways. And so I was hanging onto my steering wheel. He came out of nowhere. And so it damaged my rotator cuff. And I had just started at Pilates. And my physiotherapist was like, I'm sorry. I know you love Pilates, but we cannot do that. And I was in physio kinesiology for about 9 months. And everybody tells me I was very lucky, which I know how lucky I am, but it could have been worse. If he hadn't swerved, he would have been inside my van.
Wow. Yeah.
So he was speeding through a construction zone.
Yeah.
And I was dead stopped. So anyway, I just kind of, you kind of get in a funk, and I put on about 45 pounds after that. And that just really, I got back to pretty much the weight I was, about 20 years ago, when I was going to have, start trying to have babies and things. And I had to change my life back then. I went from a size 22 to a size 8 in 6 months. And then I got pregnant, and I was at the gym 5 days a week, my entire pregnancy. And then when a few years later, I had my son, and when he was 3 months old, I got pneumonia, and I was 3 hours from dying, literally. So I had a 3-year-old, a 3-month-old, and I was 2.5 days in a medically induced coma, intubated, and I was 10 days in total. And then about 6 months, a year later, I had a complete nervous breakdown. And that, when you go through an experience like that, it shakes you to your core. And I was having panic attack nightmares and things. And my naturopath actually put me on amitriptyline, and it saved my life. And then I just kind of started trying to find my way back. And then in 2019, I walked into a gym and said I need to lose 80 pounds. And I met a wonderful man. His name's Adam, and he's still in my life. He had to take another job, COVID.
Yep.
And then the gym shut down and everything happens, and everything I had been trying to do completely changes.
Yeah.
And in the middle of COVID, I ended up getting hit. That's when I had my car accident. And now I'm just trying to fight my way back. And it's taken me a long time to figure out where I want to be, because I know I'm not the woman I was 20 years ago when I first did this. But, you know, I know where I want to be. I'm just struggling to get there.
Yeah. And you're stronger than you were 20 years ago.
I am. I'm physically stronger. I am physically, mentally, everything stronger.
Absolutely.
You know, I had a nervous breakdown, you know, when my kids were little. And then we kind of knew in the early years of my daughter that she was probably, you know, something was going on. And then, you know, kindergarten and everything, it just didn't happen. And then we waited too long to get her assessed. And then when we finally got her assessed, she was in grade 4.
Yeah.
And my son was assessed a year later. And then we just get, you know, I couldn't start services because they were not mature enough to process that they were autistic. And so we had to wait yet another year. And then right when we're getting services, COVID hits and all the services go online. Right. So now it's just kind of we've had 2 solid years of services, and my kids have just grown in leaps and bounds. COVID was not helpful to my son at all. He's not a child that could wear a mask. And so it was never like the employees in stores. It was, you know, customers. Yeah. And you can't hide your kids from that. Like, you can't hide your kids from ignorance, you know? And that was probably the hardest thing, was people being ignorant to a child that they didn't know a story.
Sure.
You know, and that as a mama bear,
yes.
I struggled with that very much. But I always had, you know, so anyway, we just kind of, we have to fight for our kids. I know I did that. I said that a few weeks ago. If you can't fight, if people aren't going to fight for your kids for you, you have to fight for your kids.
I'm going to interrupt for just a second, because you said mama bear, and that was one of the things we were talking about behind the scenes before we started. But I want to acknowledge a few people that just logged in.
Oh, absolutely.
So Gabe, hi, I'm honored. Like, yay, we have a celebrity joining us. And Jennifer Wallace, hi. Coolest ladies on LinkedIn. Well, it takes one to know one. So hi, everybody logging in. So one of the things we talked about, and one of the things you have like on your LinkedIn profile, is that you're the mama bear.
I am.
So we're here to share stories, and you've been sharing,
absolutely,
you know, some very amazing stories. So how did the mama bear, what's the story behind the mama bear?
I am a mama bear raised by a mama bear. And my mom is the rock that everybody needs to have. If everybody could have a rock like my mom, they would just be killing it. And when I got sick, she just swooped in, and everything was just done. And I had a very traumatic experience with my daughter when I was delivering her. And she was my husband's rock. She was my rock. She was just everybody's rock.
Yeah.
And so anyway, basically what happened, one of the ways I really got to be I learned how to be a mama bear, was when I was in grade 5, a long time ago. I had a horrible grade 5 teacher. And when I talk to teachers, they're like, oh, good Lord, what happened to you should never have happened. So basically, a very long story short, she hired a psychiatrist or a psychologist to evaluate me without telling my parents. He put me in a room. I had to study ink blots. It was a horrible situation. They basically wanted to send me to a school for mentally handicapped children in another city. And my dad is a Papa Bear like you've never met. And he just sat them down and said, absolutely not. And he talked them into making me repeat grade 5.
Yeah.
And her watching my parents go through that as a young child, I didn't understand where they were coming from. But looking back as a parent now, I'm amazed at so much their courage and their strength to not say, well, the experts say, so we should go with what the experts say. They went with their intuition. They went with their heart. They knew who I was. They knew who I wasn't. And so now when I'm fighting for my kids, I'm the one to say, you have an inner bear. And if you're fighting with a teacher, if you're fighting with a doctor, if you're fighting with whoever you're fighting with, you have an inner bear. And if you're a dad, you're a Papa Bear. If you're a mom, you're a Mama Bear. And if you don't support your kids don't have support.
Right.
And then sometimes Mama Bear has to go in a cage and the lioness comes out. And there has been times for that.
I know that one. And now I get to enjoy being a grandma bear. And
my mom is a very proud grandma bear and a very proud great grandma bear. And she loves my kids. My dad is like the grandpa. And it's hard because when grandparents have grandchildren that they didn't anticipate what they would be like, and this is what they're like, it makes it challenging.
Yeah.
But they've accepted my kids. They've understand. Even when they don't understand, they let me teach them. And when none of us understands, we learn together. And that is huge. But it's funny because when I'm in like my autism parent groups and somebody brings up like mental health, all the eyes go to me. And they're like, Jen's not a therapist, but she's going to take over here now. And
you have a few examples to share, right?
I do.
So what's your fiercest and hey, April and Chris, thanks for saying hi. Yay. So Jen, what is your fiercest Mama Bear story?
My fiercest Mama Bear story is my absolute favorite. So my son was in grade 3. We pulled him out halfway through grade 3. And we had a music teacher, and no flack to music teachers because you guys are very important. But when a mother of an autistic child takes their child out of music class, don't try and crap on the mom. Just go along with it. So my son has what's called selective mutism. He's got 5 people in his life that he speaks to. One is definitely not the music teacher. So he cannot have the noise of the music class. So he's out of music. He's in the resource office. He's wherever. He's just away from that room. So she's a very prim and proper, music class will get you to Harvard kind of woman.
Yeah.
And so she came marching up to me in the hallway. And I love this story. She came marching up to me in the hallway and she said, Jennifer, your son is not in my music class. And I said, no, he's not. And you know exactly why he's not. And she said, well, I don't appreciate that. And I said, well, sorry, but that's life. And so she says, well, he has to be in the Christmas concert. And I said, listen, he's not going to be in the Christmas concert. And she said, well, that's ridiculous. He has to be. And I said, has he ever spoken a word to you? And she goes, no. And I said, well, why would you think he's going to sing on stage at the Christmas concert then? And she's like, oh. So what she literally said to me, Tanya, was she said, I don't like you. And that's the wrong thing to say to a Mama Bear. Because I said to her, I don't care if you don't like me or not. I'm his mother. And if I'm telling you he's not going to be at the Christmas concert, you're going to stop making a big deal out of something that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And I marched down the hallway and I got our resource teacher who, if you think I'm a Mama Bear, you haven't met Carmen. She went toe to toe with the music teacher and fixed it all. But she expected me to cower and repent or whatever she wanted me to do. And I just said, no, I'm his mom, and I'm telling you what will happen and what won't happen. And for Pete's sake, it was a Christmas concert.
Yeah.
Like, get over yourself.
Right.
Exactly. If he was destined for Harvard, this isn't going to keep him out of Harvard.
Yeah.
So that was in the school. That was my fiercest mama bear moment.
Yeah.
And then I did actually take him out a month later and start homeschooling him.
Yeah.
Just because he isn't a child for regular school.
Yeah, and not all kids are, right? It's not all kids are. All.
Yeah.
No.
And
my youngest was homeschooled. My youngest, well, for high school, my youngest was homeschooled.
Right.
Yeah.
My principal actually said it the best. She said, your son is a square peg in a round hole, and we cannot make him round. And I was like, don't even try, because it's not going to work.
But Jenna, I want to make sure that you and April are connected. So April just said that she's a mom of an Aspie. So and April has a phenomenal LinkedIn show. So I'm just hinting in here, April and Jennifer. That's it. Just a hint. Doing a little bit of connecting here.
I don't know April, so I can actually see the comments. So.
You can't see them? Okay. Well, you can, once this closes and recorded, you can go back in and see the comments, and you can probably comment on the comments. And Chris Hennessy says he was homeschooled his entire life. Well, that explains it, Chris. No, I'm just teasing.
Honestly, the best way to describe my son is he's 11, but he is a 65-year-old man. And he'll literally walk in the room and scratch his head and go, I was thinking. And I'm like, really? What were you thinking about? But yeah. So, one more story before I start asking some of the ending questions is in any decade of your life, and I probably have had one more than you. What story is like the most impactful for you in any way, good, bad, or ugly? Like what story that you look back now and go, I'm glad I had that happen. It was. I do have one that I don't really feel comfortable sharing publicly, but I do have one that I talk about often, and it was the day we lost my grandpa. And my grandparents were 18 and 30, and they got on a boat and ended up in Canada, and it was very treacherous time. Obviously, it was in the early 1900s.
Yep.
And my grandpa was actually born in 1896. And he was 30 when he left Ireland. And my grandma, the day my grandpa died, 64 years after they got married, my grandma walked in the mobile home that they lived in for so long. And she walked up to me and she said, honey, what do I do now? And I said, I don't know. I was 16. But I remember asking her a few years before that, I said, how did you do it? You got on a boat and ended up in another country at 18. And I know it was a different time. I understand all of that. And they went through the Depression. They went through multiple children. They lost 2 children. They had a couple of children pass away. And she looked at me and she said, sweetheart, you just do.
Yeah. And
that has gotten me through some moments where, and I had a beautiful family friends of ours that has known me since I was a baby myself. And one day on a Sunday morning, he walked up to me and he patted me on the shoulder and he said, I have some advice for you. And his wife almost passed out because she didn't know what he was going to say. And he said, when it is the middle of the night and she's crying and you're crying and you don't know what to do, you just love her.
Yeah.
And I thought he was a pipe fitter. He was a very manly man. He was a man's man. He was, he never had clean fingernails. You know what I mean? Like he was just a gruff, manly man.
I know that. I think that's one of the reasons we connect, because my grandparents came on a boat.
Yeah. And in that moment, I got probably one of the best parenting advice I've ever gotten in my life, is you just love them. And in moments where you don't know what else to do, you just love them. Yeah. And I love that. That's one of my favorite favorite things.
Yeah.
And believe me, she put us through her first year. She started teething at 3 months old, got hip dysplasia, was in a hip dysplasia brace for 9 months, all of her teeth, including her 2-year-old molars, by her first birthday.
There you go.
And I still had two.
Now I'm going to question this. No, I'm glad I stopped at 2 as well.
Yeah, I wanted 4 in my early 20s.
Yeah, I love your story, and I also think, we have good genetics. And I always say I've got good genetics. When my grandparents came, my grandparents are Russian, but they were living in China. My great grandfather was an engineer, and he designed the Trans-Siberian Railroad. So they were living in a Russian community in China, and then when the Japanese invaded, they got on a boat. Hence, I don't know, you might not know, but a lot of people who know me well know that I lived on a boat for 8 years.
Yeah.
My grandparents obviously got on a boat, came to San Francisco, and didn't know any English. And my grandfather's first job was painting the Golden Gate Bridge. And the thing was, the higher you went, the more money you got. So my grandfather just went to the top. I'm like, I've got good genes. If he can do that, I can start a coaching company.
My grandpa saw the Titanic before it left Ireland.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny because when I watched the Titanic, like when I learned about Titanic in school, my grandpa got really mad because he said they taught us all a bunch of lies. It wasn't how it really went. And, he was in his 80s. So, I mean, he might not remember exactly how it
happened.
But, he insisted on a few things. And I was like, really?
That's funny. That's funny.
But,
all right. So before we wind down, I ask everybody 2 things. One, a sneak peek into your next chapter so that you got to look at all these people on. We're going to hold you accountable, right? No. So, or at least capable. We might not hold you accountable, but we'll hold you capable, right?
I hear you.
What's something you want to create or write in your next chapter?
I want, it's funny because my therapist actually asked me that not that long ago. And I said to her, I want to raise good children into good adults. And she said, okay, but you need to have more than that. And I said, okay. I said, I haven't finished my story yet. Right now, I'm kind of a short-term person, right? I need, I need to get my weight journey finished. I need to maintain it. But that's kind of where I am. I'm a homeschooling mom of 2. I don't really do the homeschooling. I have people that do it with me. And I really struggle with, my daughter's closer to adulthood than I really would like her to be. And I want to make sure that my kids, when they do reach adulthood, they're going to make a difference in this world, even, with their limits and without,
Sure.
And my biggest thing is I just want to inspire other parents to find their inner bear and, just remember that they're a bear and sometimes you have to be a lion or a lioness and go from there, and that's really like, I'm the mental health person, like take care of your mental health. Your physical health is so obviously important, your cardio health, but if we don't have our mental health and we live in a couple of countries that don't really take care of mental health that as it should. And like our veterans and our, people like our first responders, their mental health isn't as taken care of as it should be. And when the government doesn't help you, you really have to kind of fight for yourself. And I know it sounds easy for me to sit here in my van and say that, but we really have to just say, I need help. Yeah. And it's
hard for humans to do that.
It is.
To ask for help.
It is. And we really need to end the stigma, especially for men. And I'm so grateful, for the people like Brandon Clark and Alex Rainey and people like that who talk about, and I know I'm forgetting so many names, but they really talk about how important it is for men's mental health. And, I want to raise a son that doesn't put aside his mental health. Like he needs to take care of his mental health just as much as his sister does. And I really believe that we really tell, like there's so many parents to this day that still tell boys, don't cry, it'll make you a sissy, and boys have feelings.
Yep, they do.
and we need to share them.
Yeah,
you know.
and you're a great role model. So I
and
have a feeling your next chapter is going to come to fruition. You're a great role model for them. And your health one, you know, as I was sharing before we got on the show, you know, I learned how to bake sourdough bread through COVID and ate way too much of it. So now I'm also on the similar journey you are.
I know.
Hopped in the pool today and did laps and went, oh my gosh, I remember when I could do 100 of these, and I'm just grateful I just did 10.
And honestly, it was like I said in my Tuesday Talks with Jen the other day. The second you're doing something is better than the second you're not.
Yep, absolutely.
I do have a favorite saying, if I could share.
Yes, that was my last question before we sign off.
I keep
favorite quote, saying, book, movie, song.
My favorite author is Debbie Macomber. She's a romance author. She's dyslexic. She's a huge inspiration to me. But one of my favorite quotes is, a wise man fears three things: a sea in a storm, a night with no moon, and the anger of a gentle man. And I've known a few gentle men that I don't want to see their anger. Like, I mean, I kind of want to see it because they don't show it very often, but just on the sidelines.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm going to encourage you to put that in LinkedIn. Or
I'm going to do a post about that.
Yeah, so I really want to kind of like sit with that one for a few minutes.
But I really love, like my dad's in an industry that he was on the water a lot, and he said that one of the scariest things in the water is the water that you can't see.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's true. And if we didn't, my grandma always told us, because we used to do the drive from, you know, BC to Arizona. And my dad loves to drive at night. And I always said to my grandma, I'm kind of nervous of the dark. And I still am. I still don't like the dark. But I love full moons, even though they make me wonky. I love full moons. And whenever I see a full moon, I just think of my grandma and how much she always told us that that's our nightlight. Yeah. And my daughter is basically the mini version of me and my grandma. And she's actually named after my grandma. Because when I was 8, my grandma said to me, if you ever have a daughter, I promise me that you'll name her Sarah.
There you go.
So I did.
I got a Sarah. All right. So I want to honor everyone's time. We're at a half hour. So please tell everybody how to find you before we say goodbye.
Yes. My autism page on Facebook and Instagram is A Peek Into Our World. And Jenny's World on Facebook. And then that'll link you to my Instagram as well. So A Peek Into Our World is all about autism and selective mutism. And Jenny's World is a lot about me, but a lot about mental health and, you know, things like that. And I'm really trying to build up both pages. And most of what I post on LinkedIn is already on both of those pages as well.
Okay, cool. Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, this was wonderful, and we'll have to do this again.
Yes, please do. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for all the comments and everybody who showed up.
Yeah, I can't wait to read them. I can't see them, so I will definitely comment.
Yeah, and I will find out why you can't see them. And sometimes I can get it to scroll underneath where we're talking. Yeah. The comments will start to scroll, then they're not today. So I know a man by the name of Chris Hennessy who is a great Restream teacher. I'm going to reach out to him.
That's amazing. I'm really excited.
Find out. I got to get him to start producing these for me. So, Chris, I don't know if you're still on or not, but I'm throwing it out in the atmosphere.
Chris, help a lady out.
That's right. Help the lady out. No, he's a great teacher. He did. I wouldn't have
he's
been
fantastic.
If it wasn't for him.
I remember when you first put this idea together, I was like, I need to be on this lady's show, and that Chris guy, I need to follow him.
There you go.
So I am instantly connected to him.
All right, everybody. See you soon.
I will.
Say goodbye.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.